moving in the direction of everything being back up and rolling, even in California. Even in California, where the governor just a couple of weeks ago was saying, I don't even want to talk about 2020. Let's focus on 2021. Now he's already moved to pro sports can be back in June. This is what happens when you see a market move. When you see a market move in a really good direction, state of Arizona said pro sports can start back up. And as soon as that happened, Florida said the same thing. Now Texas has said the same thing. And guess what? California got in line. News just came out. I appreciate somebody saying it in the comments. I saw this. That NYU in New York City is planning on opening back up in the fall. And I want to say this about Notre Dame and also about South Carolina. I actually think there are a lot of good moves. Do you guys see this story? South Carolina said they're eliminating the fall break and trying to finish the semester earlier. The University of Notre Dame said that they are going to start August 10th, I believe, a couple of weeks early. And I like this idea. I like this idea. If you are concerned about flu season and coronavirus season potentially re-emerging, what you should be doing is trying to get as much activity as possible in the summer months. So the idea of starting school in August or even late July makes a lot of sense to me as you look at the overall landscape of the way that school will take place. Notre Dame's going to be done, they're planning, by Thanksgiving. Why not make the summer break this coming year the winter break? Instead of having just a couple of weeks off or whatever it is, why not take a couple of months off in the winter so that you can sit out for December and January and much of February and then come back in February, late February, and go to maybe the end of June for the college calendar. This seems like it makes a lot of sense to me. It puts less of the strain on people to be cooped up during the coldest weather months. It allows for you not having to worry as much about getting home for Thanksgiving, getting home for Christmas, New Year's, going back and forth. It seems like it makes a lot of sense to just expand the winter break. Then you have a lot less big events going on and bring everybody back at the end of February. Maybe you take away spring break, let people take spring break before they even go back to school, and you just go straight through and finish. I got to give credit to Notre Dame, to South Carolina. I think this is a smart addition. Take away fall break, start earlier, and be more flexible. I don't know why you wouldn't be encouraging that. That to me could make sense for a lot of elementary schools as well out there. I think it's a smart play. Now, what's not smart? Nanny state. Being a part of the nanny state is, I think, insanely dumb. And what I mean by this is the governor of Pennsylvania, who has been one of the most restrictive governors in the country, and who frankly has not done a very good job dealing with nursing home issues in the state of Pennsylvania, where a huge percentage of their deaths are from. I think it's like 68% of all deaths are from nursing homes in Pennsylvania. The governor of Pennsylvania, Wolf is his last name, and he recently today was upset that Ben Roethlisberger went and got a haircut. Really. The governor of Pennsylvania is upset that Ben Roethlisberger went and got a haircut. This is a real comment by a real elected official in this country. I saw this headline and I said, my God, this can't be real. The nanny state governor of Pennsylvania cannot be worked up about whether or not Ben Roethlisberger went and got a haircut, but it's real life. He's upset. And he is a loser in this sense for even being upset about this and addressing it. He has not done a good job. And I know that there are lots of people in Pennsylvania who are thoroughly unhappy with him in general. So here is my takeaway. I am going to get a haircut today. That's right after I go to my gym. And after I go to my gym, I'm going to go get a haircut. And then I'm going to go out for dinner. And then I'm going to go home. and I'm going to be home for a couple of days. And then for Memorial Day, I'm going back down to my beach place. I'm going to get on an airplane with my wife and fly down to the beach. All right? It's time to live your life if you are young and healthy. It's time to get the economy rolling again. All right? Be smart. Live your life. But this nanny state business where you're constantly on social media running around like, oh my God, there's 8 people together. Look at this. This is unacceptable. You're a loser, okay? Get a life if you are running around outside upset because of how many people are on a patio having a beer, if you are upset about how many people are having dinner, if you are upset about a haircut place opening, it's time to get back to mourning, to get back to normal, all right? So I'm telling you to live your life as you see fit. I spent 18 days down in Florida, drove back up to Tennessee for a couple days, going to go get a nice haircut. By the way, you can get a haircut in Florida too. Hair's getting a little long, getting a little bit of the wings here. I'm going to go get a haircut. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go out to dinner. Those are 3 things that I'm doing this afternoon after I get off the show. And then on this weekend, I'm hopping on the airplane and I'm flying down to the beach with my wife. My wife happens to be hot, just so you know. Also happens to be really smart. We met at Vanderbilt Law School. And we're going to have a good time together at the beach. And we're going to be fine. So you can either live your life in perpetual fear, like the governor of Pennsylvania, and you can be lecturing people who go get haircuts, or you can live your life as you would prefer to live your life. I'm going to choose the latter. All right, the NFL. Give credit to the NFL for shooting down this ridiculous idea. Did you see where they were going to increase the draft position if you hired a minority general manager or if you hired a minority coach? This was a ridiculous idea. I am disappointed in the NFL that they even allowed this to be floated publicly. The idea that they were going to reward teams who hired minorities and bump up their draft position was, I thought it was insulting, first of all, to minorities, because it presumes that no minority candidate for GM or coaching is worthy enough of being hired without a bribe, which is actually insulting. Secondly, it flies in the face of everything that the NFL stands for. And this is the argument I've made for a long time. If you believe there is a market inefficiency and there are talented people who are not being given opportunities, then you should want to exploit that market-based inefficiency as opposed to allowing the market-based inefficiency to exist. Like, if you believe that there are great minority coaching and GM candidates that are not getting hired, then you have an opportunity to go get the best possible options at a reduced cost. And I think this is what happened with Bill Belichick and white wide receivers. I think Bill Belichick looked at the white wide receiver market and he recognized and he said, wait a minute, there is a fundamental undervaluation of white wide receivers. I'm going to go sign them. I won't have to pay as much, and that will allow me to spend money elsewhere. If the market is inefficient in any way, if the market is racist and not allowing people to get jobs because of racism, then by being not racist, you would win more. That's what the NFL meritocracy reflects. The better talent you have, both on the field and in the office and in the coaching staff, the more likely you are to win. So if there are this huge stable of minority candidates that would lead to more victories, then you should want to go hire them. You shouldn't need an incentive to make your team better. If I owned a team, the idea that I would in any way restrict any position based on race is laughably absurd. I want the best candidates at the best price to win the most games. I mean, that's every owner's goal. So this whole idea doesn't make sense to me in the first place. And so I also wonder, what's the percentage that makes sense? Black people are, it's primarily black, right? People aren't worried about Asian coaches or Hispanic coaches, although it's minority. Black people are 12% of the population. So why shouldn't the coaching ranks be roughly reflective of the overall population of the United States? That's a question nobody really ever answers for me. The best coaches often never played in the league. In fact, the best coaches, as football has gotten more complicated, are often really low-level college football players at best. Mike Tomlin, Sean McVay, Bill Belichick, John Harbaugh, all the guys that I'm naming, by and large, were not particularly successful in the football ranks. So the idea that football as coaching should mirror the overall football player perspective really doesn't make sense. Why do we expect that the coaching ranks would look like the playing ranks, when the reality is most NFL coaches get into coaching really young, right? Like Sean McVay, if you went back and watched the story with John Gruden, I mean, he went into this at like 20 years old. If you know that you're not going to be an NFL player, then you go into coaching at a young age. And then you have an advantage because you got a decade in the business before somebody who actually played might ever be able to get into it. So this is a question that most people never actually ask. Most coaches are not good enough to be professionals. Why do we presume that the ranks of professionals will look like the ranks of coaching when in theory coaching is open to everybody? You don't have to be a great player in order to be a fabulous coach. Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time. He was a pretty crappy football player. So I think this is really interesting to think about. And nobody ever talks about it. Like, what's the goal? The goal is to win as many games as possible. But in the NFL, one team's going to win, one team's going to lose. What is the goal that you are looking towards in order to be, quote unquote, diverse? I don't really know. We know that everybody is able to compete evenly for jobs on the field. Why is there a presumption that teams are consistently hiring lesser coaches when nobody ever says that unless you're like the Cleveland Browns and you just suck over time? I think it's a really interesting question. Most people can coach. May not be good. You got to be smart to be a really good coach, I think. But most people can't play in the NFL. So why would we use the NFL overall numbers as a reflection of what the numbers should look like in coaching? Just a question that I'm asking that I don't hear very many people ever discuss. The English Premier League. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. The English Premier League tested all of its players. 6 of them were positive. They are now saying they only need for there to be a 1-week quarantine before these guys they think are going to be healthy and be able to play again. The question that I see getting asked the most about sports returning on social media is people run around, they say, oh my God, what happens if somebody tests positive? We have to shut down the entire league. That's the way I picture them all talking. That's the way the Corona bros in the media talk when they talk about if somebody tests positive. It's not that big of a deal. You go ahead and put them into quarantine to get better, and then you go ahead and you continue. This idea is crazy. It's not very complicated. It's not, look, if somebody gets the flu, you pull them out of competition and you wait until they get healthy. The data does not reflect that anybody is in danger of death who is young and healthy from the coronavirus. I keep hitting this point because it's significant, but I saw yesterday in the Pac-12 states, there's not a single person between the ages of 18 and 22 that's died of the coronavirus. Let me repeat that. I saw my guy John Wilner put that in his article writing about the return of college football. There isn't a single person 18 to 22 who has died of the coronavirus in any Pac-12 state. In the country, if you are under the age of 24, you are more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to die of the coronavirus. Now, that doesn't mean that young people may not die. It means that they are incredibly unlikely to die, and the athletes who are the youngest and the healthiest of everybody are even less likely to die. So why is this idea out there that if somebody tests positive, you're going to have to suddenly change everything? Look, that's a precedent that existed when Rudy Gobert tested positive and the NBA shut down. And it isn't realistic going forward now that we know a lot more than we did back when Rudy Gobert tested positive. Okay? So if you think about it, Dana White got this right. Dana White, when they had a UFC fighter test positive, he just pulled him out of the competition. They continued with the competition. That's what every sport is going to have to do. some people are going to get sick. Once they get sick, they have immunity, according to all the studies that have now come out. They're not going to get the coronavirus again. So yes, some people are going to get sick. Some teammates will get sick. But most of them will experience this and not even know that they had it. And so this is an easy solution going forward. Period. Somebody just said, I'm not leaving the house until I get a lightning vaccine. That's funny. It's ridiculous, but that's the argument that some people are making right now. If you are young and you're like, I'm not leaving the house until they get a vaccine, you're basically saying, I'm not leaving the house until there's a vaccine for lightning. Bad things can happen. Young people get sick. Some people die. But that is not a reason why sports should not exist anymore. So that is the EPL. That's an important message that they are sending. Bundesliga is doing the same thing. We're not shutting down when somebody tests positive. We're just allowing them to get better, and then we're going back. This, I think, is interesting. Tom Brady is already leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneer players in workouts down in Florida. This is what you get when you get Tom Brady. You get a tireless worker who is going to push the edge of the rules. And Brady is already working out with his teammates. He's got the most talented 5 receivers you have ever seen. You've got Mike Evans. You've got the wide receiver, the tight end core, which is unlike Chris Godwin at wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver duo out there. You've got an incredible impact when you think about O.J. Howard, Rob Gronkowski, and Cameron Brate. These are the 5 best receivers, wide receivers and tight ends that Tom Brady has ever had in his career. It's not even close. And somebody just said you get the Michael Jordan effect, and that's right. People know that Tom Brady is the GOAT, that he's going to push them, that he might be somewhat of a jerk, but he's going to win championships. I love this move by the Bucs. I like that Brady's already leading workouts. Bucs are going to, I think, push the Saints in the NFC South throughout the entirety of the season. Brady versus Breeze is going to be one heck of a show all season long. I took the over for Tampa Bay. I think it's 9.5, if I'm not mistaken. Over is 9.5 at Fox Bet. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there. Finally, Joe Rogan is going to Spotify. This could be a Howard Stern to satellite radio-like moment for the podcasting industry. What do I mean? At some point in time, I have been anticipating this to happen for a while. Instead of making your podcast for free everywhere, people who have the biggest podcast audiences, I believe, are going to start to align with different distributors who distribute that content uniquely. And for Spotify, this makes a lot of sense. They are trying to establish themselves as the destination for audio anywhere on the internet, podcast and music. I can see iHeart, who employs me through Premiere. I can see it making a lot of sense going forward at some point for iHeart to say, hey, if you want Fox Sports Radio, you can only get us through the iHeart app or whatever destination we may be going to. We got millions of people downloading the Outkick podcast every single month now. We are one of the biggest sports audiences out there. As we are growing, the monetization on the podcast front is going to continue to rise, and I think exclusivity is going to become a big deal. So props to Joe Rogan. He's obviously got a massive audience. He has a lot of hardcore fans out there. He seems to do great and outstanding work and be an intelligent guy who's not sitting around trying to placate cancel culture all the time. Elon Musk, by the way, announcing that he's taken the red pill goes on a lot. I'd like to get Elon Musk on. I'd like to talk to Joe Rogan. I'd like to do his show. I think this is all pretty impressive, and it's a storyline in the world of sports business that is worth following. All right. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. We'll be live tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. We're also continuing to do Lock It In videos. You can follow me on Twitter at Clay Travis. Go subscribe to all of our podcasts. This is also up as an audio version if you want to be able to grab it, and you will definitely enjoy it. My name again, Clay Travis, DBAP, unless you need SBAP. I will see you guys. Kisses. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. Appreciate the audience. If you enjoy it, share it. See y'all.